Thank you. Lumen calls Mr. Drillman as on cross-examination.
Before you are seated, please raise your right hand. I swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and the whole truth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. Would you state your full name for us, please?
Boruch Drillman.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Boruch Drillman.
And you go by Barry?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Where do you live, sir?
I live in Muncie, New York.
What's your address?
9 Emerald Lane, South of New York, 18901.
Okay. Do you have a relationship, Mr. Drillman, with a company called Pax Latitude?
Yes, I'm the managing member of that.
And you're an owner of the company?
I am.
Are there other owners of Pax Latitude?
No.
So you own all of it?
I believe I own all of PAC. I'm the managing member. I'm not PAC Latitude.
Well, if there are no other owners and you're the only owner, then you would own all of Pax Latitude?
I do have investors, so I'm just not sure which entity they are. So I'm not sure if it's a Pax Latitude or a different entity that owns certain Pax Latitude. What I will say on the record is that I'm the managing member.
Can you identify for us these investors, other investors in Pax Latitude, aside from yourself?
I object to the relevance. I fear that Mr. Teagues is using this as an opportunity for informal discovery on the case across the street. This is his motion for contempt based on the failure to close. The discussions about the corporate makeup and other investors in the property are not relevant to this proceeding. More important, potentially prejudicial as it relates to the other litigation, which has been stated by this court. So we ask that the questions that Mr. Drillman has asked and is asked to answer be relevant to this proceeding.
Please, would you like to respond?
Simply trying to establish his relationship with the entity, the defendant, and whether there are others who are involved in its management.
Mr. Kane, I find it very relevant who the actual owner of Pax Latitude is, so I'd like to hear the answer. Objection.
Thank you. So Mr. Drillman, can you identify for us these other investors in Pax Latitude, aside from yourself?
I can identify some of them. You want the names of the actual investors?
Yeah, that would be helpful, sir, yes, please.
It's a conglomerate. There's a Naftali Rose. That's an investor. Naftali Rose. That's an investor. There is Ari Harel. That's an investor. That's what I remember offhand. But I fully controlled Pax Latitude.
I understand.
As managing member.
Is there a person, perhaps yourself, who is the majority owner of Pax Latitude?
I am.
You are. And can you tell the court what percentage of Pax
I don't
Latitude?
remember offhand exactly my percentage.
But it's more than 50%?
I believe so.
What are your responsibilities, your duties? What do you do as managing member of Pax Latitude?
Could you be more specific?
Not really, but what would you like me to be more specific?
I was on top of making sure that there's a management in place. And in this specific scenario, I hired a company, Love Management, to manage the property. Obviously, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, and I think that's why we're all here. And most of the day-to-day, not all the day-to-day management, I give it over to Love Management. I rely on them for the majority, or if not all, of the day-to-day of the property, running the property, making mortgage payments, etc., etc. It was brought to my attention, I don't remember the exact dates, October, maybe November of last year, of all the issues that's going on at the property. I actually didn't even know about missed mortgage payments, just to be, I can say that on the record. As soon as I found out about it, Mr. Kahana, he updated me everything that was going on. This was all running through the management company, and I decided, to settle and, enter, to sell this property, which I did. Not only did I do that, I did it. I think Mr. Dunbar knows that I did that from behind the scenes, making sure that there would be a buyer that the city was very happy with, which was Gaslight, and which was actually a lower price. I don't know, it was a lower price than some of the other prices that were coming in. They felt the certainty of closing was much more by Gaslight than by the other groups, being that they're local. Mr. Dunbar met them, felt very comfortable with them, and we went into contract with them. I kept all the terms of the deal that we did in court, and and then Christmas Day, everything really fell apart from that deal. Everything turned upside down. The building had to get vacated, etc., etc. From then, until today, all I've been doing is changing management, hiring experts, whether it's on the ground or crisis management teams, a new management company, investing every dollar that I was supposed to extend, I have, and committed to seeing this through until the end. I've reached that limit, your clients numerous times, through myself, through representatives, and I never got anywhere. I'm here to do the right thing. I'm here and committed to do the right thing, and that's the best I can say. I mean, I was under a third-party management company. So it was obviously a disaster, to put it mildly. I think we can both agree on that. And we were going to sell the building. We were non-refundable with a great group, and then the disaster happened. Since the disaster happened, all I've been doing on my end of things, protecting my collateral, protecting your collateral, was doing the right thing. Getting the necessary contractors, third-party vendors, keeping bills up to date, making the necessary deals that I had to make, here, to make it right. I mean, I've hired a local third-party management that's local Columbus people, which I believe, I've never heard on the record, but that Mr. Dunbar was very happy with. They're all local Ohio people. And I'm here to make everybody right. I mean, one of the great concerns that I personally have is the tenants. I'll say to you how it is. I hope it's not going to, bite me in the ass. But most of my lawyers are telling me, I don't know if they have a case against you. They don't have a case against you. But I'm in the position that I do want to settle with everybody. I want everything to be amicable. And the tenants are a huge deal to me, being that I'm the owner of the building, and I want to do the right thing. Obviously, it has to be economical, and that's one of the biggest concerns for us is dealing with the tenants and getting a deal done, whether it is they have a legal case or they don't have a legal case. I want to do the right thing, see the scene through, me being the person in charge, and putting it in the owner. This is not what I ever imagined would happen, and.
Explain it to me, sir. What did you never imagine would happen?
I never imagined that. Listen, I never could have. When I said never could have imagined it happened, I didn't. My first the management company that we both approved would, not do their job. I mean, to put it mildly.
But when you bought the property, you knew, did you not?
Knew what?
That there was a potential asbestos problem there?
I did not know that.
You did not know that?
No.
We're going to come back and explore that in a few minutes. You mentioned aloof management. Is that the current property manager?
Not anymore.
When did aloof begin to manage the property?
By closing.
In August 2021?
That's correct.
That's when you acquired the property?
That's correct.
And for how long did aloof serve as property manager?
Up until, I don't have the exact date, but basically once the flood happened, there was a transition that happened to Mr. Stiglitz, which is, I forget the name of his group, and town management. So I don't have the exact dates in front of me, but it was in the process once we understood that Gaslight wasn't closing, and there's going to be a different process. There's going to be a new strategy happening just based on the scenario. I completely shifted my attention to the actual property rather than, you know, making sure the transaction
Okay,
goes
I
through.
understand that. So it's helpful if you just answer my questions. And
I didn't understand the question.
That's fine, that's fine. So when you say when the flood happened, you're talking about the occurrences over the Christmas weekend?
Christmas weekend and those following weeks.
Right. And so who did you hire to replace Aloof Management?
Now, just for the record, it's Aloft, A-L-O-F-T, Aloft Management.
Who did you hire to replace Aloft?
Town management, and we were in the process of you know, there was, to be clear, there was a person named Mr. Stiglitz. I forget Josh, do you know the name of the room?
Mr. Drillman, you need to answer my questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And not ask questions.
Sorry.
That's
First
okay.
time I ever understand, guys, so I'm sorry.
Oh, then you're having a new experience.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm not. So there you go.
Yeah.
I've heard the mention of Integra Management.
Integra and Aloof are sister companies, so I don't know. Integra and Aloof are sister companies. I don't know their names.
So who was the property manager until Christmas? Was it Aloft?
To me, they're the same.
Or was it Integra?
To me, they're the same. They're the same people. They're the same everything. Aloof and Integra are the same people, same owners.
Do you have a relationship with Integra?
I have they're third party, absolutely third party managers.
You have no investment in that? It's a
Zero.
company.
Zero.
All right. So, you acquired the Sawyer Towers property in August 2021, correct?
I believe so.
August 16, 2021? All
I don't remember the exact name.
right. And you personally signed several documents as part of that acquisition, correct?
That's correct.
Including a personal guarantee.
I don't know.
And you recall signing an environmental indemnity agreement, sir?
I don't know.
What's your numbers? So you should have, Your Honor, may Mr. Parskell approach the witness and provide some exhibits and to you, the court as well.
Sure, so for the record, have opposing counsel have the opportunity to take a look at whether
We distributed these this morning.
We were handed about 5 minutes before Your Honor came out, that's right.
And so, Mr. Drillman, you have before you 4 documents, one of which is marked as Exhibit 2, the environmental indemnity agreement. Do you see that?
I do see it. I never read it, but I see the document.
You've never read it?
I haven't. I mean, I don't remember it. I'll have to go through it again.
Okay. Well, if you turn to page 14, or it's actually called page S1. Is that your signature on this document, sir?
Yes.
Do you recall signing it?
I had a bunch of documents, and they were put in. This is my signature.
And next page, S2, that is your signature there as well, correct?
That's true. That is correct.
Yes. That's the very last page of Exhibit 2, right? Yeah. And you signed it before a notary public in Kings County, New York, right?
That is correct.
Sure. And did you ever review this document, sir?
I believe I did, but I don't remember. I'll go through. I'd have to read it again to, remember it.
And you knew at the time you signed this document that there was a risk of asbestos in this property, correct, sir?
No.
You didn't,
No.
but you claim to have read the document?
I I'm telling you that I didn't know that there was asbestos. I have to go through this document.
All right, well, let's take a look at a little piece of it. If you go to page 7, sir.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's the paragraph, the carryover paragraph that appears at the top of the page. That's where I'd like to focus your attention, okay?
Okay.
The last sentence of that paragraph, it's paragraph 7, which starts on the page before, but the last sentence on page 7, paragraph 7, states, borrower, and you were the borrower, correct, sir?
Yes.
Borrower hereby acknowledges and agrees. So you acknowledged and agreed, right? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. That as of the date hereof, and so we're clear, the date of this is August 16, 2021, correct, sir?
Okay.
That's when you bought the property, right?
Correct.
As of the date hereof, borrower has established that certain, then I want to go to B, asbestos operations and maintenance program. Do you see where it says that, sir?
I do.
And you signed this, right? Yes?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it means, but I signed this, yes.
Did you ever know what it meant?
I think I did, but now I'm not sure.
Why did you need to establish an asbestos operations and maintenance program for the Sawyer Towers?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Nope.
Did you ever ask?
I'm going to try to refresh my memory after this with speaking to people that were involved in this, my lawyers, my transaction lawyers. And I can say on the record, and it's zero knowledge, zero. And that's absolute. That there may have been an issue with asbestos on Sawyer Towers.
So you say you had zero knowledge of asbestos problems.
Maybe I didn't read the documents well?
Let me finish, sir, please, okay? Please. You say you had zero knowledge of asbestos problems, and yet you signed, not only on behalf of Tax Latitude, but signed personally, acknowledging and agreeing to establish, had established, an asbestos operations and maintenance program. That's your testimony. Am I stating that in any way?
I'm saying is that I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember what the asbestos, how I dealt pre-closing with establishing what should be done with the asbestos. That was done more with my managerial people. So I don't know that. Now I can say on the record, which is a fact, because this is my truth, is that I didn't know, me personally, I didn't know that there's a potential issue with asbestos in Sawyer Towers.
Well, let me ask you
That's my
this
testimony.
question. You know, I can't, you know, obviously I can't get inside your head and understand what you knew and didn't know, or what you know, remember or don't remember. But is it fair to say, taking you, Mr. Drillman, personally out of the equation, is it fair to say that Tax Latitude LP knew that there was an asbestos problem at the Sawyer Towers property?
Yeah, I would object to the question. If he's asking Mr. Drillman what Mr. Drillman knew, and Mr. Drillman's answer, Tax Latitude is an entity for which he serves as the managing member. If he's asking Mr. Drillman as the managing member what he knew, he has answered he didn't know. If he is asking about what somebody else or some other entity might have known, there's no way for him to answer that question, and so I would object to the question.
Mr. Davis, you want to address the objection?
I'll lay further foundation, Your Honor. You're here, Mr. Drillman, today testifying in this courtroom, not just on behalf of yourself personally, but also on behalf of Tax Latitude.
Objection.
Correct?
That's an objection. There has been no request for Mr. Drillman to be here today to testify.
Your Honor, that's a clearly improper objection. This is just unnecessary, inappropriate.
Mr. Teagues, let me hear Mr. Kahane's objection. Mr. Kahane.
Mr. Teagues did not submit a request for a designated corporate representative. There was no issuance of a subpoena. There was no notice of a discovery request for testimony. Mr. Drillman, in fact, had returned back to New York last night. But when I received the email from the magistrate, I contacted Mr. Drillman at the court's request and asked him to return this morning to be present in the courtroom. Until 1 minute before the judge came, Your Honor, came out, he was not even notified that he would be testifying. He is here today testifying as Boruch Drillman, and if he has knowledge of other facts, he's happy to provide them, but he is not a designated corporate representative. He is not the person who may know the most about Pax Latitude, and no request was ever made for such a representative here in court today.
Thank you, Mr. Kahane. Mr. Teagues, you may address the objection.
Your Honor, yesterday I distinctly recall in chambers Mr. Kahane describing this witness, Mr. Drillman, as the managing member, corporate representative of Pax Latitude. I don't know what's changed between yesterday and today. I can't imagine anything really has. He's either here as the managing member of Pax Latitude or he's not.
All right, thank you. Mr. Teagues, Mr. Kahane, I am going to sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Drillman, are you here solely on behalf of yourself, or are you here on behalf as well of Pax Latitude?
I don't know the exact answer to that, but I'm here because after all this, I wanted to be here in case there's a deal or in case I can clarify anything, if someone wants to talk to me, if Your Honor wants to talk to me, if any of the lawyers want to come to me. I didn't come with a specific, I'm coming for this. I'm here because there's a big issue at Sawyer Towers, and I'm looking to do everything to make this right. So I'm here, and to show the respect to the court, to show respect to all, everything that's, Mr. Dunbar, the legal aid, yourself, and, either whether it's questions, whether it's deal making, whether it's whatever, that's why I was here.
But you didn't answer my question, sir. Are you here representing Pax Latitude LP?
I think we've been through this. I object again. I think we've been through this, Your Honor, sustaining the objection. He is not the designated representative for Pax for purposes of testimony today, and the court sustained that objection already.
Mr. Teagues, I believe the witness's answer was he didn't know how to answer it.
That's probably fair, Your Honor. That's fair. That's fair. So, Mr. Drillman, do you have any recollection why, when you purchased this property, what was called the Sawyer Towers, why you signed an agreement stating that you would establish an asbestos operations and management program? Is that, do you have any recollection of that?
I don't remember. I don't know, and I don't remember. But I will be able to clarify it, hopefully with my representatives after court.
Well, I mean, unfortunately,
yeah,
then I'm not able to ask.
I know.
Mr. Teagues, sir, you must not talk at the same time. The court reporter trying to get down everything you are saying, everything Mr. Teagues is saying. It makes your job difficult. It makes the court's job difficult to understand. So when Mr. Teagues is asking a question, if you would, please wait until he has finished his question, and then you may respond. And Mr. Teagues likewise.
Yes, Your Honor, I apologize. Mr. Drillman, after you purchased the property on August 16, 2021, did you have prepared an asbestos operations and management program?
Objection. He's asked the same question 3 times. He answered that's not aware of it. He didn't. When he signed this, there was documents that were put before him that he signed. He's not aware of it. He's not aware of the plan. He doesn't know the answer to that question. Mr. Teagues seems to be asking the same question in different ways, trying to elicit a different answer. So we object as asked and answered.
Mr. Drillman, would you look at what's before you as Exhibit 3, Lumen Exhibit 3? Oh.
You were approaching, Your Honor?
Sir, do you recognize Exhibit 3?
Let's see, Exhibit 3. Where's Exhibit 3?
Yes, sir. Do you recognize that document that's marked as Exhibit 3?
This?
Yes, sir.
This is for BBG, third party, okay.
All right. And it says it's prepared for Latitude 525 apartments, right?
That's correct.
It's dated September 14, 2021, which was roughly 1 month after you purchased the Sawyer Towers, correct?
That's correct.
Have you ever seen this before?
I personally have never seen this before, no.
Okay. Did you know that this asbestos operations and maintenance program had been prepared for your company for Pax Latitude?
I don't remember.
Do you know who commissioned the preparation of Exhibit 3, the asbestos program?
I'm assuming it was the operation of the management company, but I don't know.
And that would be a loft or a Integra. Did you ever have any discussions with them about preparation of the asbestos maintenance program that you recall?
I don't.
Do you deny that this document was in fact prepared for Pax Latitude?
I'm uncertain of who, it says it's for Latitude 525 apartments. I'm unaware of this, so I can't make any representation about it.
Okay, that's
I'll look
fine.
into it.
That's fine. So I want to shift gears with you, sir. You should have in front of you Exhibit 1.
What's your Honor?
Mr. Parson, you don't listen to which one it is. Ours are pre-marked for identification.
So Exhibit 1 is the agreement.
Mr. Drillman, you've been provided a copy of Judge Mingo on January 4th, 2023, the day after we had a lengthy proceeding in front of her Honor. Have you seen Exhibit 1 previously?
This document?
Yes, sir.
I think parts of that, I don't know if I went through the whole thing.
You've only seen parts of it?
I believe I know all the terms of this, yes. I've seen it.
Did you authorize your counsel to enter into this
Yes.
agreed order on behalf of your
Yes.
company, Pax Latitude?
Yes.
Now, when did you personally first become aware that there was asbestos contamination at the Latitude apartments?
I don't know the exact date, but it was when the restoration company, All Dry, was doing their remediation. They discovered asbestos and they did the necessary, whatever the protocol was to deal with the asbestos. Get the right people involved, notify Mr. Dunbar, the city, tenants, that there's asbestos.
All right, and I believe the evidence is that All Dry started to work on either January 10 or 11, 2023. Is that consistent with your recollection?
I don't know the exact date, but it was beginning of January.
After the court entered the January 4 order, correct?
I'm not sure if it was before or after. I believe it was after.
And you said it was All-Dry who brought this information to your attention that there was an asbestos problem?
I believe so.
Who at All-Dry, if you
It
recall?
was too many representatives. Actually, Audrey didn't call me up and say, Barry, there's an issue. There was managerial people and lawyers that were involved, and they contacted them, and they notified me.
Okay, all right. So if you would turn in Exhibit 1, that's the January 4 order, turn to paragraph 1. And specifically paragraph 1A, right? You with me?
Yes?
Okay. And it says, on or before January 6, PACT shall enter into a purchase and sale agreement for the sale of the property to an unrelated party on terms and price reasonably acceptable to Lumen and upon terms that conform with this agreed entry. At any point after this order was entered by the court on January 4, did PACT enter into a purchase and sale agreement for the property?
We were negotiating a deal. There was never, no, there was never a signed contract by both buyer and seller after January 6th.
Or after January 4?
After January 4th.
Right.
Again, gas lights
So
were still.
what?
Can I just go ahead? I'm sorry.
Let me ask this. Why not? On January 4, you, your company, through your counsel, promised this court that by the end of that week, by Friday, January 6, you would have a purchase and sale agreement acceptable to Lumen and conforming to the order. Why didn't that happen?
What happened was we started, Gaslight backed out of the contract because they needed, they just, you know, that's not what they expected, that's not what they wanted. And then we were negotiating with a group called Premium, and they started getting nervous about the condition of the property, and then asbestos came up, and at that point they didn't want to put any ink on a purchase and sale agreement because of all the uncertainty and et cetera, et cetera. So we tried very hard to negotiate the deal.
But the asbestos issue didn't come up until the following week. Why, if you promised, and you did, to have a purchase and sale agreement by January 6th, a Friday, why didn't you do that?
Your Honor, objective question. I believe the question that he asked was, does he know when he found out about the asbestos? And he said he doesn't remember the date. And Mr. Teagues tried to suggest it was January 11th, and the witness responded it was when All-Dry got there, I believe, All-Dry. And then he said, oh, January 6th, 7th, and he said, no, I think it was the beginning of January. So we have not established a date of whether or not it was before or after the signing of this order. The presumption being made in the question that somehow this was after the order is a false premise, and it is objectionable.
Your Honor, the evidence is very clear, and I didn't say the things that were just stated. The evidence is very clear that All-Dry started either January 10 or January 11. And that's when, at the earliest, the problem was known. And witnesses acknowledge that. My question is simply this. If you didn't know about asbestos until the following week, why didn't you do what you said you were going to do in this order the week before, sir?
Our objection is not the testimony. And the city was notified of the asbestos on January 5th. The city was notified of the issue on Thursday, January 5th. We can go off the record if we want to have a bench conference about this, but Mr. Teagues is creating a fact that's not in evidence. We can read it back, or we can ask Mr. Drillman again the question and let him answer it again. But he's trying to establish an argument that is not based on fact.
Let me off the record. Go back and change yours.
Just got a few more questions. So, on Tuesday, January 3 of this year, your council were here and agreed on the order that's marked as Exhibit 1. You recall that, sir?
Correct, yes.
And then on the following day, Wednesday, January 4, the court formally entered the order with the clerk. Are you aware of that?
I don't know the exact case, but I'm aware of the order.
Right, sure, okay. And then by January 6th, the Friday of that same week, Latitude was supposed to do certain things, one of which was to provide a signed purchase and sale agreement. That did not happen, did it?
That did not happen.
Okay. And then if you look at paragraph 1B, there was to be a deposit of $500,000 by January 6th, Friday, January 6th. Did that happen, sir?
There was no deposit on January 6th.
The following week, one of your other companies...
One second. What I will say is that there was $500,000 put up to escrow in an escrow account in a title company called Landmark Title. Pending, again, but the contract wasn't signed yet, pending us getting to a deal, with all the uncertainty around the building. So there was $500,000 actually put up for the deal, pending us trying to negotiate a deal. All I was trying to do was, I said, there's a court order put up to $500,000, so if we can get to a deal, we can get to a deal, and I'll just try to push it along. And actually $500,000 was put into escrow, but a deal couldn't be consummated because of all the uncertainty around the building. So essentially the only reason why this deal didn't happen was only because of the uncertainty around the building and the asbestos and etc. That was the only reason why a deal did not happen. Once that happened, I realized on my end of things that there has to be a new course of action being taken of, bringing in new management, extending all the money that I extended, and coming up with a new approach. Bringing in a crisis management team, local management team, dealing with the tenants, dealing with the city, and I've had numerous representatives, brought on from fresh, from when the disaster happened. So, just to clarify, there was every good faith energy, me personally, and I'm saying this on the record, to get this deal done. Like a marathon, to say it better than that, like a marathon. I did my best. It's just the amount of uncertainty and the non-refundable deposit that had to be put up was something that nobody was comfortable to do.
So
Once I realized
to do it, right?
So again, so I'm telling you exactly, this is able to be verified, so you'll have to say exactly what happened was that there was $500,000 that was put into escrow that Friday, hoping that they'll come to a deal in the next day or two, and Josh recommended that you just do it in the case that they'll be able to get comfortable with the deal, and everybody will be okay. So you know what I mean? So we can actually, if they would do it, let's say call Monday, Tuesday, because they weren't comfortable on the Friday, put up the money, and if we get to a deal, call Monday, Tuesday, then everybody would be okay, and we followed, the judges, the honors, as much as we can, this order. So it clarified itself.
So let's just be clear. The $500,000 was supposed to be deposited with Lumen.
That's correct.
Never happened.
That never happened. 150 was given. My other thing is only what I was obligated to do. The 150 I personally sent to them.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Tigas. Cross-examination.
Just think one question, Mr. Drillman. Do you recall?
Objection, Your Honor. Call the witness as a cross-examination.
Noted for the record. My apologies.
Right, for direct
Direct
examination.
examination. Mr.
I believe they can recall Mr. Drillman if they put on a case,
Very good.
but technically, he's doing it right now.
Cross-examination.
Yeah, thank you.
Your Honor, my understanding,
I apologize for interrupting.
procedurally, Your Honor, my understanding, when you call a witness as if on cross, you still have the ability to question directly, but you may reserve that right if you don't have any questions to do it in your case in chief. But if he has questions now to address specific issues on his questions, he has the ability to do that in their case in chief.
Mr. Pease, what are you citing as your rule procedure for this?
It's the statute in Title 27 on calling witnesses as on cross-examination, and I used to know the number, and old age is caught up with me, I'm afraid. But, Your Honor, if it's one question, okay, in the interest of let's just get it done here, withdrawn, have him ask the one question.
I don't know that it is just one question.
I think I said one, as I've been thinking it could be somewhere between 1 and 3 questions, but it's very limited.
Mr. Teets, is your objection still withdrawn?
It is, Your Honor.
All right. Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Drillman, do you recall on Friday, January 6th, when the money that you said was wired to Landmark Title and Trust? First of all, is Landmark Title and Trust affiliated with your company at all?
Zero.
When that money was wired, do you recall, was there a reason, a particular reason why you were unable, even if you wanted to wire it to Lument?
I do recall.
For purposes of clarity, what is your testimony? What is the reason why you were unable to enter into a purchase and sale contract on January 6th?
It was the uncertainty around asbestos and condition of the property.
And if not for the asbestos issue and the other issues that you raised that were discovered after the January 3rd hearing, would you have entered into a purchase and sale agreement?
Absolutely, and I did it like a marathon. I was doing I entered into a contract with the Gaslight. It was for a low contract, just because the city highly recommended them. I wanted to make this whole by everybody, and that's all I've been doing. I mean, that's putting my money where my mouth is. I mean, that's what I. So absolutely, and if anybody has a buyer today, you know, based on the condition of the property, I would do the exact same thing again. So I stand firm with that, and it's just the reality on the ground. They had to change course, and since I had to change course, I've done everything in my power. I think, you know, taking away the old management company, which obviously hurt everybody, including myself, in the last month, I've been, you know, I want to give myself an A, but I would say at least a B+.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Is there any buyer who would buy this property in the current state with the asbestos?
Objection, no foundation, Your Honor.
Okay. Have you identified any buyer who will purchase the property in the current state?
No.
And my last question for you, are you familiar with the proposal that was submitted on or about last Friday, I apologize, February 10th? Are you familiar with the proposal that was submitted to all of the attorneys involved in this case?
That was done on my behalf.
And do you stand by all of the
Yes.
commitments made there in terms of funding the city, funding Lument, and funding the needs of the tenants?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, Rule 408.
Which states what, counsel?
Settlement negotiations are inadmissible, and everybody knows.
Mr. Payne, would you care to address the
Sure.
objection?
These are not settlement negotiations. This was a proposal of how to address the needs of every party that was attached to the motion that we filed. And I can go through one by one what he is offering to do. If counsel would prefer, I thought I could short circuit it by just confirming that he's committed to all of that.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Objection overruled.
So just for the record, are you personally, Mr. Drillman, are stating to the court on the record that you are committed to ensuring that every element of this proposal is satisfied?
Yes.
Nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Just one moment. All right, the court will strike the witness's testimony with regard to the settlement proposal. The court will also sustain Lumet's objection to the testimony with regard to settlement. Any other parties have questions, limited questions for this witness? Mr. Dunbar?
Yes, Your Honor.
No questions for the witness?
I do have questions for this witness.
You may proceed.
Okay, Mr. Drillman, you say about January 3rd or January 4th, when this order went in, you tried like heck to get a deal done by that Friday, January 6th, right?
Correct.
And you said you were not able to get a deal done because of asbestos, is that right?
Asbestos and unknown condition of the property.
Okay, so you knew about the asbestos before January 6th, right?
Yes, I believe that when there was uncertainty around the asbestos, uncertainty, I don't know exactly when it was actually found, but there was a certain time, and this is again, I can't say this with absolute certainty, but there was a time from when, let's say that week, that there was a big suspicion and maybe, you know, wasn't verified, that there was suspicion around.
And where did that suspicion come from?
The people on the ground, it came to me through managerial people and more managerial people.
And who are those people?
At that point, there was a woman named Rebecca Appel.
I'm sorry,
My in-house, just people. I don't know where they got the information from, but they were reporting back to me. You know,
Who are your in-house people? Who you just slowly go through?
there's two people. There's Rebecca Appel. Those are the two people. Rebecca Appel and Miriam Ashcroft.
Could you spell both of those names first and last for the record, please?
Rebecca Appel, I can spell R-E-B-E-C-C-A. Appel is A-P-P-E-L. Miriam Ashcroft, I'm not sure exactly how to spell her last name. Ash, A-C-H-K-A-R-I-N, I believe. Ashcroft.
So, one thing you were certain of is that one of these two people told you there was a suspicion of asbestos at the property before January 6th, right?
That's correct.
And do you know where they got the information that went?
I don't. I can find that out.
You said there were some other issues in addition to asbestos that you think prevented the deal from happening?
There was an uncertainty because of the condition of the building, and you know, it was such a chaotic situation that although they loved the location, you know, they wanted to work with the city of Columbus, and you know, they liked the area, but there was just so much uncertainty is probably the best way how to say it.
And what was their uncertainty about exactly?
I told you the asbestos, mainly. Condition of the building, they were really, you know, they were planning on, you know, call it gut renovating it, so they're less concerned with that. I would say uncertainty, because it was so early and fluid, you know, in the process of, you know, investigating, that they just couldn't, you know, unfortunately, they couldn't, you know, they just couldn't, you know, put the ink on the signature line.
So you know there were issues other than asbestos, but you don't know exactly what those other issues are, correct?
What made them walk was the uncertainty around asbestos, simply because they understood that there's going to be a gut rehab. So if there's a little more or a little less, I mean, that's basically my conversations, they were comfortable with the deal. What made them start to feel uncomfortable is the general suspicion around asbestos. Yeah, general asbestos, and then what else maybe don't we know, because, you know, and that were non-refundable, so early, you know, in the investigation, essentially.
Again, I'm just trying to make clear, is it just asbestos that you think stopped the deal from happening?
The suspicion of asbestos, that's what I believe.
That's the one and only.
That's what I believe, but again, once there was a suspicion of asbestos, it caused an alarm in them saying we are too early in the investigation, and there could be so many things that come up. That's, you know what I mean? That was trying to as much portray the realities of the ground that was happening.
And what I'm trying to understand is it asbestos plus 1, 2, 3 other concerns, or is it, okay, now we've got asbestos, we're worried about a bunch of stuff even if we cannot name it?
I think once they understood that there was an answer, again, to the best of my capability, is that once they knew that there was a suspicion of asbestos, it was more, okay, you know, even if it's a rehab, there could be so many things that come up, you know what I mean, that are uncertain. It's too early for us to pull the, you know, to ink it.
Understood.
Yeah.
Now, when you could please look at Exhibit 3. That's kind of a fat packet in front of you.
This guy?
Yes. Now, when you were asked, you don't need to go into it. Just when you were asked about that by Mr. Tiggins, you said you had never seen that, but maybe because you relied on your managerial people. Is that the same two people, Rebecca and Miriam, you just talked
that
about?
was the operations. I'm not even sure. That's why I'm going to find out after this if Rebecca or Miriam saw this as well. I'm uncertain what this is, as I'm trying to read it when you're outside. I was, just for the record, I relied on management. That's really the truth. I relied on management. I'm not in the business 100 years. This was a learning experience for me. I'm going to be straight up. There was a lot of misinformation that got to me as well, as you say, this on the record, throughout, you know, call it the later year of 2022. So I had two decisions: either coming in and you know, taking out management, investing, you know, making relationships with all the necessary parties, the city, et cetera, or sell and, you know, move on from this project, even though it was at a loss, you know, for me. And I decided to do that. Once that was an impossibility, I completely shifted gears. You know, I completely shifted gears. You know, to revamp the management, start, you know, paying bills, start, you know, taking care of everything that was, you know, literally crazy, I mean, for the lack of better words.
And I just want to make sure I understand when you say things like operations, people, or management.
So there's my in-house people that work, let's say, you know, work for me in my office, and then there's third party.
Okay. So let's start with the in-house people who work for you.
Rebecca and Miriam are the two new people.
And would you classify them as your operations people or your manager?
Asset management.
And do they work for you as an individual or for Pax Latitude? Who signs the paychecks?
Me.
So they are employees of Barry Drillman, correct?
Drillman and some of my entities, my personal entities, companies.
And one of them is the one who told you before January 6th there's a suspicion of asbestos at Latitude 525, correct?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, it was a chaotic situation, of course. I just wanted to, like, put things in perspective. We had very little time to commence the order, and we were doing everything in our power to, you know, literally, for lack of better words, you know, convince, you know, the buyer to, you know, to get on board. And once there was asbestos, there was something that, you know, a suspicion of asbestos. You know, I spoke to, you know, my lawyer and some other lawyers that I have on board here, and they told me that you just got to say it how it is. I mean, that's the reality.
And this was a chaotic situation for your tenants too, right?
Absolutely.
Much more chaotic than you trying to do a deal in a week, right?
I mean, the tenants were uprooted from their homes, and I feel terribly about it. I'm looking to make it right.
Now, again, I want to go back to when you first looked at that asbestos report and said you relied on your managerial people. Who are you talking about when you say my managerial people?
The operators on the ground. I'll lose that in town.
Have you ever done business with Alop and Integra before?
They have managed some of their other properties, but I have no personal relationship to those properties. For the record, I'm fuming at them and I hate them.
About how many of your properties have they managed?
A few. And I'm in the course of changing everything.
When we say a few, that is more than 3?
I have a lot of properties, for the record. I would say somewhere between 3 and 7.
How many properties do you have for the record?
I don't have the exact number, but many.
Give us your best estimate, please.
Over 25 that I'm a partner or general partner or investor in. I don't know the exact number.
So you say you own over 25, they loft
Buildings, whether it's multifamily, some office, some warehouse, some development projects. If you're asking me what I think about these people, I think they're terrible.
Well, I'll ask you what I'm asking you about. So of those 25, about how many are residential complexes?
I would say most of them are residential complexes. I've never missed a mortgage until I missed my mortgage on any property ever, besides when it came to this property. I do have some issues here and there at some other properties, but I'll tell you this much, I really learned from this. I was really relying on other people too much, and that's why I'm here today. And I've been doing everything I've done the last month and a half, because you gotta really align yourself with good people and make sure everything is functioning the way it's supposed to. I had a lot on my plate, I'll be honest with you, the last year. I've been a young guy that was trying to buy real estate and do the right thing, etc. And I made a mistake with this management company. I mean, it's as simple as that. Once I realized that, I said I had 2 options: either to start, revamping the property and start making it all right when we're in this mess, or sell it. I made the decision. I understood from all the parties to sell it. I said, I have enough going on, and everybody wants this. I know that was your thing. You were pushing the gaslight, and I did have an higher offer than you that was but I said, what? Let me just, it was my reputation. It was just I wanted to end this in grace, in a good way, and make people unhappy. And unfortunately, there was a disaster, and that's why I'm here now. Trying to do the right thing.
As we sit here today, do ALOC or Integra manage any of your other properties?
Yes.
About how many?
I don't have the exact number, but I can get back to you. Somewhere around 5, I would say.
And you said when Mr. Tigges was asking you questions, for you, ALOC and Integra are the same thing because it's the same people. That sound right?
That's correct.
Who are those people?
They have a management office based in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. Yoli Balsam is involved in there.
What's their case that again?
Jonathan Balsam.
Balsam?
Yeah. There's, a little office. They just don't know what they're doing. Jewish guys from Jersey. I thought knew what they were doing, they don't. And my plan is, this is obviously the thing, is to get just factual, so you should just know really, really where I stand, is actually getting rid of, them as managers across the board. So and I've been in the process of doing that. So it's since this.
How many times have you been to Latitude 525 yourself?
You say before now?
Lifetime.
Before I purchased the property once.
And about when was that?
I don't remember. Probably a month or 2 before, maybe 3 before.
you purchased it in August of 2021, correct? So it would have been sometime before August 2021.
My apologies.
And so you're there August 2021. When was the next time you were there?
I wasn't there. I was getting reports from the ground, and I was being told everything's good. There's a few violations, and we're working on them, and everything's going to be good.
Who was telling you that?
A Luft or a Templer, Bowslut. Yeah, I wasn't getting the information on the ground, knowing what I know today, over the last few months of what was actually happening. I mean, if I was, I would have been here a lot earlier.
So when they told you that they were getting a few violations, what did you do with that?
They said they're handling it, there was good people involved, and they will take care of it. So I wanted to be concerned about it. I said, okay, the property's got violations, and you clear them, you work with the necessary people, so all the property. I said, okay, great.
Did they tell you what any of those violations were?
No. It's nothing to be concerned about. They were making me calm. Anytime there was a status quo, they were basically saying, Latitude's great, we got this going, they were taking their fee, they were this and that, and it was like, okay, great. This is like there's a little issue with the property, but it's like a non-headache property. It's fascinating, but that's actually the truth.
You're saying that the Latitude 525 was a non-headache property for you
Right.
until, I think you said, fall of 2022.
Fall of 2022, there was a few mortgage payments that was missed. I was in Israel for the holidays, and I was unaware. And they told me that it was. It was a managerial account that used to come out of. And I never missed a mortgage payment in my life. So, and I'm testifying that on the oath. So, and I was like, I didn't know what to do, with my relationships, my reputation, and everything. And, we did it. Josh, advised me and, told me, you want to just get out of this deal, you're going to have to, change management. I mean, it's a whole new story that I actually got myself involved in. And I said, that's what it is.
Who was responsible for making those mortgage payments?
I mean, I was the person responsible. The management company always did it. That's how it works with me. Is that the operating company gets the rents, pays the expenses, including the mortgage payment. And I never had in my life that an operation company would make mortgage payments on my behalf. I mean, yes, it's my personal responsibility to oversee it, but it's like, industry standard that you assume your operations company is making the mortgage payments.
Do you have the ability to make the decision to sell this property on behalf of Pax Latitude yourself?
Yes.
You do not have to consult anyone else? Do you have the ability to change management companies yourself?
Yes.
You have no one else to consult?
That's correct.
How? Primary source of funds to do work on this property, I'm talking over the last year, I understand we're in a little different situation, but that is rent income, correct?
Correct. All of it.
Also. So you use all of rent income is pushed back in?
That was getting pushed back in, yeah. There was no distribution at the property.
Yeah.
There was actually one distribution right away, the first, I think the last quarter of 21. Ever since then, there hasn't been any distributions.
And when you say distributions, who is that money distributed to?
To myself and the few investors.
And the few investors are the people that you name before, right? So they have a right to some of the income, but they do not have any decision-making authority. Is that right?
Absolutely, Mr. Dunbar.
And if the rental income is not sufficient to maintain the property, where does the money come from?
So that's what essentially happened. What ended up happening was that the operation company was such, I guess they were ashamed, I have no idea what it was, that they couldn't maintain the property, and they were giving literally misinformation to, myself and the ponders, that just one day, the vacancy started going down, as you know. The vacancy started going up, and they were trying to float it, and they just didn't have money, so they decided they could literally not tell me about mortgage payments, what's going on about the property, until we literally ended up in court. That was precisely what was going on with this management company. It caused me a lot of harm. The management company.
No question, Your Honor.
And Ms. Johnson?
No questions.
All right, I think we are finished with this witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Drillman, you may step
Thank you.
down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Will you be calling any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, one more witness. Lumen calls Jim O'Toole.